Life defeating death. The Chilean miners are winched one by one from the depths of the earth. Most of them are now safe, and they could all be out by the morning.
This is the ITV News at 10 with Mark Austin and Mary Nightingale.
The drama unfolding above and under the ground at the San Jose mine has gripped millions, the world witnessing a feat of remarkable courage and endeavour.
The sheer joy of being alive and free.
Soaring national pride, how the people of Chile have inspired the world.
Also on the programme, eyewitness accounts and new pictures of the 7-7 bombers as they prepare for their deadly mission.
And has a deal been done? The American who wants to buy Liverpool Football Club arrives in Britain.
Good evening. Tonight, 24 of the 33 trapped Chilean miners are back where they have dreamed of being during 69 days of unimaginable hell, with their families. They have been emerging through half a mile of rock throughout the day. As they appeared from the metal cage, hauling them from despair to celebration, they shared hugs they feared they would never feel again. On every face, pure joy. In many eyes, tears of pent-up relief. On smiling lips, just one word: miracle. Now, these are live pictures from Camp Hope as we see the 24th miner emerging. He is Jose Henriquez, and he is the drill master, no less. And he is also the evangelical preacher who has been holding services down below there at 7:30 in the morning and just after lunch each day to keep the spirits of the miners up. And there he is. He's now off to hospital. Our correspondent, Geraint Vincent, who is there, has spent the day counting them up.
The hours, which must now count amongst this country's finest, started to tick by just before midnight at the San Jose mine. A rescue expert, Manuel Gonzalez, one of many brave men here, was the first to step into the capsule they call the Phoenix. There were claps of encouragement, and he was on his way towards the centre of the earth. Not much more than 10 minutes later, the miners' transport to salvation reappeared. A steel tube sliding through the ceiling of the cavern that some of them had feared might become their tomb. Chile's president was among those watching from the surface. These were nervous times. But then the wheel of the winch began to turn again. The first miner to be brought back to the surface, Florencio Avalos, was on his way. As his 8-year-old son waited under the wheel, his eyes were full of tears. After 69 days of waiting, he watched his father come home through the capsule door, and there followed an unforgettable moment of pure humanity. Through the belly of the mountain, the Phoenix kept on delivering the miners at the rate of 1 an hour throughout the night. Next up was the joker in the pack, Mario Sepulveda. Out of his bag, he produced a souvenir for the president, a piece of rock from half a mile down. In front of a crowd of rescue workers, he celebrated his freedom like a footballer who'd scored a goal. Though his achievement so much greater than anything that could ever be done on any field of play. A few hundred yards away, clustered around TV screens in the corners of Camp Hope, the miners' cheers were echoed by their friends and wider family members. For some, the celebrating could start.
Family and friends of the miners are watching this rescue unfold on TV screens across Camp Hope. Each time that rescue capsule appears at the top of the shaft, another family's dreams are fulfilled.
Morning had broken by the time the oldest man in the mine was helped out of the rescue capsule. Over the course of his confinement, 62-year-old Mario Gomez had written more than 40 letters to his wife Liliane. On the surface, he fell into her arms and then onto his knees to give thanks. After her husband had been taken to hospital along with all of his rescued colleagues for 2 days of observation, I caught up with Liliane on the streets of Camp Hope. I'm so happy, it's like a dream for me, she told me. But I'm thinking of the other families who are still waiting. Some of those families didn't have much longer to wait as the mountain gave up the men ever more quickly. Carlos Barrios hugged his father and then through his tears took a few shaky steps. Victor Zamora just wanted to hold his wife in his arms for as long as he could. Waiting for Daniel Harrott when he stepped out of the capsule was his delighted mother. And Esteban Royas, who said a prayer on his return to the world, was joined by his girlfriend of 25 years, to whom he proposed while underground. The work of the Phoenix is not finished, and there are people here who wait still for it to bring their husbands, sons and brothers back to them. But for the moment, it is working wonders, and so the smiles are spreading across this extraordinary place. Geraint Vincent, ITV News at the San Jose mine, northern Chile.
Well, the rescue operation has been a source of great national pride to the Chilean people. That their country could mount this operation so efficiently, defying disaster, defying nature, with the world watching every move. And the TV coverage has been pretty impressive too. Tim Ewart reports on a triumph snatched from what had seemed near certain tragedy.
In every time zone, from Sydney tonight, free at last, to Berlin, from Madrid to Beijing, all eyes were on Chile. It was a gripping, real-life drama, whatever the language.
A los mineros de la región de Atacama en Chile.
They broke into applause in St. Peter's Square, and the Pope said he was continuing to pray for the safe rescue of all 33 miners. They cheered in Washington, D.C., and Barack Obama caught the mood.
This rescue is a tribute not only to the determination of the rescue workers and the Chilean government, but also the unity and resolve of the Chilean people who have inspired the world.
And in Santiago, the capital of Chile, they watched the drama unfold and simply went wild. Chile's President Piñera, who had joined waiting families, was called by David Cameron and spoke to him in front of live television cameras.
You cannot imagine how people are feeling here when they come out from the bowel of the earth, and they come out so strong, with so much faith. Really has been something magic. We will never forget this night.
Chile has a turbulent political past and is still suffering from recent earthquakes. The rescue at Camp Hope has transformed the national mood.
After all that bad news, yes, this comes as a bit of a relief, a bit of what the equivalent, I suppose, of what happened in Spain when Spain won the World Cup. It was this euphoria that people at last had something to celebrate about.
But when the euphoria dies down, there'll be questions about working conditions for miners in a country with a deep divide between the rich and the poor. Tim Ewart, ITV News.
Well, each of the miners, no matter how well they looked, will spend the next 2 days in hospital for checkups. Our medical editor, Lawrence McGinty, examines the health problems doctors will be looking out for and the long-term problems some miners may face.
All day long, the Phoenix capsule has been bringing miners back to freedom. Each is different, some, like Dario Segovia, euphoric, some more muted. But all of them have been through a stressful ordeal that could cause problems later, especially psychological disorders.
They don't have to be traumatized, but the sorts of things which one might expect a proportion of them to show is a lot of bad memories about remembering that they were in the face of death. And the smell of, their memory of the smell of that mine, the noises they heard, that's the sort of thing which can get them waking at night yelling for help.
Even before they were discovered underground, for 17 days they'd organised themselves. Later on, they could watch football on TV, play dominoes, and even talk to their families. That camaraderie will help them now, according to the NASA doctor who advised the Chilean rescuers.
They had organized themselves, they had proved themselves to be survivors. So, I think that, that Chilean spirit and the fact, that they were singing the national anthem when they were found and being videotaped, I think is a testimony to their skill in survival, and I think they will continue to have that kind of survival technique as they're back on surface now.
Dr. Duncan says the Chileans have organised excellent medical support for the miners. They're being taken to a local hospital where doctors will look for skin infections and respiratory symptoms caused by being in such a warm, damp and dusty environment. And for 6 months they'll give them psychological support too. Though Dr. Jennifer Wild, an expert on post-traumatic stress disorder, told me she thinks they'll survive well.
I think having the support of each other, having the knowledge that they're going to get out from their trapped situation, having the support of the world behind them, the support of Chile, I think all of that is going to really help them to stay psychologically healthy in the long term.
Underground, they stuck together. Now, in the bright sunshine, the support they gave each other could be crucial to surviving the aftermath of their internment. Lawrence McGinty, ITV News.
Let's go back now to Geraint at Camp Hope, and all going well so far, Geraint, and an expectation that this could be over by, midnight your time, early morning here.
That's right, Mark, and that is because this operation is going so remarkably well. There were two main worries at the start of the rescue operation. The first was about the miners themselves. After 2 months of trauma underground, would some of the mentally and physically weaker members of that crew be able to manage that nerve-shredding journey up from the chamber where they were trapped to the surface? But we've seen today guys who've been diagnosed with hypertension and high blood pressure have stepped out of that rescue capsule and walked on their own 2 feet across to the triage centre. The other big worry was about the rescue capsule itself. Would it break down? Would it get stuck in that shaft? No, it hasn't. It has literally run very, very smoothly indeed. So not only has this been an extraordinary operation in terms of its ambition, it's also been extraordinary in terms of its scope and the speed of its success. And as you say, we're expecting all of the guys to be out of that hole by midnight here tonight.
All right, Geraint, thank you very much indeed for now. Right, lots more to come tonight. Tomorrow's front pages included, plus the rest of the day's news. Labour's new leader.
Mr. Speaker, I may be new to this game, but I think I asked the questions and he should answer them.
He puts the Prime Minister to the test.
Life Under the Cut, the latest in our series of how you're fearing the pain ahead.
And how Hollywood beckons, the movie deal that could make millionaires of Chile's mining heroes.
The first videos of shopping trips made by the 7/7 bombers just before the attacks were shown at the inquests into the deaths of their victims. They show the men going to B&Q and Asda to buy items for their deadly mission.
The inquest also heard the first witness evidence. Several commuters described seeing the bombers that morning and then described their behaviour. From the 7/7 inquests, our UK editor, Keir Simmons, reports.
This grainy CCTV is the last image of the 7/7 bombers together. Joseph Martoccia saw them at King's Cross Station in the minutes leading up to the attacks.
Their mood was very animated. In fact, I think the word I used to describe it in my statement to the police was that they were euphoric. There was a big team hug at one point.
In a corridor of the underground, he appears to have witnessed the men saying goodbye before unleashing their horror on London.
They literally came together and in like a scrum.
Some CCTV of the men was shown today for the first time. Pictures of them buying equipment to help make their bombs from B&Q. In the footage, the police have marked each bomber with an arrow. The light blue arrow indicates the ringleader, Mohammed Sadiq Khan. The other two are Shahzad Tanweer and Hasib Hussain. In other footage, Khan heads to hospital with his wife, who was having problems with her pregnancy. It suggested he may have delayed the attack by a day as a result. The court then heard from witnesses who saw them on 7-7, apparently getting their rucksacks ready in a station car park. Then on the train to London, one passenger, Ben Leach, said they were sharing a joke, laughing, smiling and generally relaxed. But another, Carl Sylvester, said they did not look around and did not make eye contact. They looked very solemn and looked a bit dodgy. There were some inconsistencies in the accounts of today's witnesses. The aim of these inquests is to reach a clear conclusion about what did happen in the days and hours before the bombers reached here. Keir Simmons, ITV News, King's Cross.
In other news tonight, the number of people out of work fell by 20,000 during the summer to 2.45 million. But figures out today also show the number of people claiming job seekers allowance in September rose to 1,470,000, the second monthly rise in a row.
Well, those unemployment figures won't be helped by an announcement from the part nationalised bank Lloyds that it's getting rid of another 4,500 jobs. That takes Lloyds' total redundancies since the start of last year to 20,000.
And postal workers' unions are warning of job losses after the government published its controversial plans to privatise the Royal Mail. The business secretary, Vince Cable, said there would be no upper limit on how much of the business would be sold.
Now, the new Labour leader, Ed Miliband, showed every intention today of making life as difficult as possible for David Cameron and Prime Minister's questions. In his first-time appearance against Mr Cameron, Mr Miliband tackled the Prime Minister for not answering his questions about scrapping child benefit for higher-rate taxpayers. Our political editor, Tom Bradby, assesses his performance.
If he was a little tense this morning before his first Prime Minister's questions as leader, and frankly, who wouldn't be, it didn't show.
Are you feeling nervous?
No, I'm looking forward to it.
He was welcomed into the chamber by his colleagues. And by the time he left again half an hour later, pretty much everyone here at Westminster agreed he'd done rather well. His strategy was effective. He picked one area where he thought Cameron was weak and worried away at it.
Why should a family on £45,000, where one person stays at home, lose their child benefit, £1,000, £2,000, £3,000 a year, but a family on £80,000, where both partners in the couple are working, should keep their child benefit? That doesn't strike people as fair. It doesn't strike me as fair. Does it strike the Prime Minister as fair?
What I believe is fair is asking better off people to make a contribution to reducing the deficit. There are thousands of people in his constituency earning 1/6 of what he earns. Through their taxes, they will be paying for his child benefit. Is that really fair?
But Mr Miliband then quoted what the Prime Minister had said before the election.
I'm not going to flannel you. I'm going to give it to you straight. I like child benefit. I wouldn't change child benefit. I wouldn't means test it. I don't think that's a good idea. I agree with the Prime Minister. Why doesn't he?
Mr Cameron came back again, but the watching press corps and pretty much all MPs agreed. It was a promising start from the new Labour leader. Tom Bradby, ITV News at Westminster.
Well, a week today we'll know more details about where government cuts will fall. That's when the spending review is published. One woman who will be watching closely is Katie Crawley from Bedford. She has signed up to our panel monitoring the impact of the cuts in the months ahead. She has a 14-year-old son, Carnell, who is severely affected by epilepsy and autism. She is his constant carer but gets an occasional break when he spends a night in a respite home. That is now threatened by council cuts. In the latest report in our series, Paul Davis has been hearing how For the Crawley family, life under the cuts could change.
How is he today? Very well. Carnell's my son and I love him with all my heart. The whole family love him. But if these cuts go ahead, we could be forced to put Carnell into full-time care because we wouldn't be able to cope. That is my worst fear.
Carnell is 14. He suffers from epilepsy, ADHD and autism. At times he's aggressive. Carnell needs 24-hour care.
Good boy. I'm just going to take him to the toilet and then he'll be back because he's got another part of the schedule.
Carnell's mum says she's frequently exhausted.
This is a good moment at the moment. It's not always like that. And when the days are tough, you actually have days where you could sit and cry.
His family gets one break. 3 nights a month he spends at the council-run Foxgloves Respite Centre. He knows the staff, he likes it here. Only now, because of cuts, the centre is threatened with closure.
I don't think they should be targeting the vulnerable, and every child that goes to Foxgloves is going there for a reason.
Katie and other parents are collecting signatures in an attempt to persuade Bedford Council to make its savings elsewhere.
Thank you for your help.
She's had face-to-face meetings with councillors.
And we're looking at the possibility of making savings at Foxgloves. I mean, I wish we weren't here having to have this conversation, but we are, so we need to have it.
I think the people that need to be considered are the vulnerable children.
If necessary, she says, she'll take really desperate measures.
If it means tying myself and my son to the fence with all his medication, that's what we'll do, because I'm not planning on letting this go.
For this mum, the stakes couldn't be higher. If cuts close the respite centre that gives the rest of her family a break, she fears Carnell will have to be placed in full-time care.
Clever boy, you done it. Well done.
Paul Davis, ITV News, Bedford.
The British ambassador to Afghanistan has promised the family of the aid worker, Linda Norgrove, that the investigation into her death will be transparent. Miss Norgrove is thought to have been killed by a US hand grenade in an attempt to save her from her Taliban kidnappers in Afghanistan last week.
We're just talking to the family about what will happen from here on in. There's to be a joint US-UK investigation into the circumstances of Linda's death, and I promised them, as the Prime Minister has, that we'll be completely transparent, and when we know all the facts, they'll be shared with the family.
And an inquest into the death of the policeman who died when a bridge collapsed during the Cumbria floods has heard how he helped save lives. PC Bill Barker was directing traffic away from the Northside Bridge in Workington in November last year when it was swept away by the floodwater.
The American businessman trying to buy Liverpool Football Club arrived in London tonight to meet the board and try to clinch the deal. John Henry, the owner of the Boston Red Sox baseball team, turned up for the talks after a High Court judge ruled the board could sell to who it wanted without the agreement of the club's owners. Damon Green is at that meeting tonight. Damon.
Well, John W. Henry arrived here a couple of hours ago. This is a law firm at the edge of the City of London, and this is an action replay of a Liverpool Football Club board meeting that happened just under a week ago. At that meeting, the board decided to sell Liverpool Football Club to John W. Henry's company, and they're all very happy with it until the club's owners, Tom Hicks and George Gillett, intervened, sacked some of the board members and said that deal's not going to go ahead. Well, today, of course, a High Court judge overruled those owners' decision. He said if Hicks and Gillett had a problem with the decision, they should have turned up at the meeting, should have argued their case, and what they actually did was to try to destroy the legality of the board of their own company. So it all seems tickety-boo for John W. Henry until this evening, when a Texas court has granted a temporary restraining order to Mr. Hicks and Mr. Gillett, trying to block the sale to John W. Henry. Whether that court has any jurisdiction in this country, we'll have to see, but it seems this story isn't quite over just yet.
Damon Green, thank you.
The miners' rescue appears on most of tomorrow's front pages. The Telegraph says the world has been transfixed by the Great Escape. Its main headline, though, is that tax relief on pension contributions is going to be reduced. The Guardian shows Chile's president greeting one of the rescued miners. Its main story is that frontline police jobs will be lost to protect spending on counter-terrorism. The Independent describes the miners' reunions as joy unconfined. Under the headline, Daddy's Home, the Star shows the tearful welcome from the 7-year-old son of the first miner out. And the headline on today's paper in Copiapo, where the mine is located, describes what it called an historic rescue, with photos of the president greeting some of the rescued men.
Well, as events in the Chilean desert have shown, everyone likes a happy ending to an epic drama. Well, they certainly do in Hollywood. And by the way, Chilean TV estimates 1 billion people around the world have been watching over the last 24 hours. Nina Nana reports on the new race against time to turn the miners' rescue into Hollywood gold.
The cameras say it all. This story has it all. Disaster, despair, tears, triumph, wives, mistresses, even Hollywood couldn't make it up. But with such extraordinary drama, it is little wonder that Hollywood can see the potential. All the miners have not yet been released, but already a film is being talked about as a certainty. Javier Bardem, the Oscar-winning star of No Country for Old Men, reportedly being lined up for a role. At this premiere tonight, talk too of the Chilean story becoming a film.
I've seen a couple of really wonderful Chilean films recently, so I think they can make a really good film, yeah.
It's so heartwarming. There's a nice thing that's happened, and so it's lovely. But yeah, they make films about things like the instant they happen now. It's bizarre.
The miners are said to have agreed that they be considered as a group with one lawyer when it comes to media interest. But there is a warning that getting a film made quickly is unlikely. This acclaimed film producer, who has worked with Martin Scorsese in the past, said he would love the project, but it is fraught with difficulties.
On any story of this kind, you need the cooperation of the miners themselves, and there's 33 of them, and they are going to have to agree if a film is made and it features all those people, then somebody is going to need to get signatures and life rights of all those people. The problem at the end of the day is money. Money will always come into this.
After what the miners have been through, few could begrudge them anything. But their moving drama is still continuing tonight, and Hollywood must wait. Nina Nana, ITV News.
The plans to turn the miner's great escape into a film. And as you can see from these live pictures right now, another miner has just been returned to the surface, the 25th. Here's Renan Avalos. He's the younger brother of fellow trapped miner Florencio, who was the first miner out this morning. And he's been working at the mine for just 4 months.
Good news. And to end the programme, let's return to Chile now for a final word from our correspondent, Geraint Vincent. Geraint.
Well, Mark, as you know, when we get sent on these foreign assignments to some far-flung corner of the world, it is all too often to report on some dreadful human tragedy. But what I've seen here is a human triumph in the most desperate of circumstances. We've seen today those ecstatic reunions, the victory of determination over disaster, hope has overcome fear, and the love and patience of those families has been rewarded. Like many, I'm in awe of what I've seen here, but still there are families waiting, and all of Chile is waiting with them. From all of the team here and from Mark and Mary in London, good night.
Topps Tiles, brightening your home, whatever the weather. Sponsors of the ITV1 National Weather.
Good evening. Well, many of us had rather a grey day today, but those of you who enjoyed the sunshine, there's a small price to pay. Where you had the clear skies today and clearer skies tonight, you'll see some mist and fog patches forming, mostly out on the western side of Britain, and it's those spots that get quite chilly too. Touch of ground frost for sure, maybe even the lightest touch of air frost where the skies stay clear for a fair part of the night. Elsewhere, beneath the layer of cloud, it is a relatively mild night. And then tomorrow we start the day as we end the night, so rather a misty start in the west. That will clear, some sunny spells will break through. Again, it's the western side that has the best chance of brightness tomorrow. Maybe eastern Scotland at times too. And eastern Scotland a touch warmer tomorrow than you were today. For the rest of us though, temperatures are still a touch below normal, 14 at best.
Topps Tiles, sponsors of the ITV1 National Weather.
Good evening and welcome to the late news from Calendar.
First tonight, and almost 700 Lloyds Bank staff in West Yorkshire are to lose their jobs. They're among 4,500 workers affected nationally and overseas. The news comes as figures show that unemployment across Yorkshire and the Humber has risen. John Hill has the story.
Time was when a job in a bank meant a job for life. Now it's perhaps one of the more precarious professions, as hundreds of people found out today here in Halifax and also in Leeds. In Halifax, 110 permanent posts are to go, plus 340 temporary staff won't have their contracts renewed. In Leeds, they're shedding 140 staff and 80 short-term workers. The bank said the cuts, to happen by 2012, were part of its integration of IT operations between Lloyds and HBOS.
We always expected there would be job losses when you bring two institutions together. But in amongst the numbers that have been announced today are still numbers that are being offshored abroad, and for them to make a decision to send jobs to India, we believe is totally wrong.
In Halifax's Victorian Market, where dozens of stallholders rely on the spending power of the thousands of local bank employees, it's bad news.
We suffer in market because people don't spend as much. You know, our market's dying anyway. If people haven't got money to spend, then they just go to a supermarket and get it all in the supermarket, unfortunately.
Today, the region also seemed to be bucking an otherwise good news employment trend. In the 3 months to August, across the country, unemployment fell by 20,000. But in the Callander region, the number of people out of work went up by 1,000. Lloyds says it still regards Halifax as one of its 5 big centres, and it seems in some departments at least they are still recruiting. That's cold comfort, surely, for those who are being shown the door.
The inquest into the deaths of the victims of the 7/7 bombings saw CCTV images today of the West Yorkshire bombers preparing their suicide attacks on London. During the hearing, pictures were shown of the chilling shopping trips to superstores in Leeds that put the finishing touches to the bombers' plans. Ben Allen reports.
Calmly buying the final supplies for their deadly mission 3 days before their attacks. This is CCTV footage taken at a B&Q hardware store on Beeston Road in Leeds and shows Yorkshire bombers Shehzad Tanweer, Haseeb Hussain and ringleader Mohammed Sadiq Khan. A receipt found at Khan's Dewsbury home after the attacks showed he bought 3 sets of pliers and 2 50-watt bulbs. And searches of the terrorists' bomb factory in Leeds revealed an improvised explosives detonator made from a light bulb. 24 hours later, Khan is seen with his pregnant wife, this time at Dewsbury Hospital. Hours after this was taken, he sent a text message to Tanweer, apparently delaying their attacks. And at an Asda store in Pudsey just after 5 o'clock in the morning of July 6th, arriving by car, selecting a trolley and walking the aisles just like any other shoppers, Khan and Tanweer buy 15 bags of ice. This, the inquest heard, was to keep their homemade bombs cool. The car was the same car rented by Tanweer and used to travel south from their Yorkshire homes before they murdered 52 innocent victims and injured hundreds more.
A 17-year-old male is still being questioned tonight over the death of a teenage mother from South Yorkshire. It's thought a body found in a canal in Rotherham yesterday is that of missing Laura Wilson. Firms that supply Leeds City Council have been overpaid by more than £500,000, with some bills being settled 3 times. An independent credit expert has uncovered the overpayments, which add up to over £550,000. The government says authorities are showing a lack of respect with public money. And finally tonight, there's been a flurry of medal activity on the penultimate day of the Commonwealth Games in Delhi. There was success for our region in the women's hockey, men's table tennis, men and women's squash, and also in the boxing ring. Here's Chris Dawkes.
And Johnson's won it for Scotland.
Boston's Callum Johnson qualifies for Scotland through his grandparents, and he'll have done them proud with a convincing victory over his Northern Irish opponent Thomas McCarthy in the light heavyweight gold medal final. Johnson is now expected to receive a call to join up with the Great Britain squad, who are based in Sheffield, for the run-up to the 2012 London Olympics. There was also another gold for England's Nick Matthew. The world number 2 from Sheffield added to the singles gold he won last week with another gold in the men's doubles. Matthew and his partner Adrian Grant, who lived in Leeds and played for Halifax, beat the Australian pairing of David Palmer and Stuart Boswell by 2-1. Jenny Dunkar from Harrogate was disappointed with the silver medal she and teammate Laura Massaro picked up in the women's doubles squash final. They were beaten in straight games by New Zealand. The England women's hockey team picked up bronze after defeating South Africa in their third-place playoff. Georgie Twigg from Doddington near Lincoln scored England's only goal, deflecting a cross from Boston-born Krista Cullen into the South African net. There was a bronze medal for 17-year-old Liam Pitchford in the men's doubles table tennis. Pitchford, who's from Chesterfield, has been tipped as one to watch due to his long reach and ability to return powerful shots, as evidenced here. But it was disappointment for Gabby White from Leeds. She missed out on a bronze medal in the women's doubles badminton, losing by 2-1 to the Australians.
And that's all from me and the Lates team. Gainers here bright and early from 6:15 tomorrow morning with the latest news and travel. From us all here, good night.
npower, a brighter service come rain or shine. Sponsors of Yorkshire Regional Weather.
Hello again. This is a lovely shot. This is from Win Hill, looking over towards Loose Hill and the Mother Mountain, Mamtor, of course. Thank you very much to Stuart Beale for that. Now, we've had a fairly quiet weather at the moment under high pressure, nothing very much happening. But as we head through towards the weekend, the isobars tighten. That means the wind's going to get up. It will tend to break up the cloud more, and it might just bring 1 or 2 showers during the course of Friday. But the weekend at the moment looks as though it's going to be fine. But back in the shorter term, tonight we are expecting it to remain dry. It will become quite cloudy everywhere as we go through the night, and the overnight low, well, a chilly 6 or 7 Celsius, a real autumnal feel around dawn tomorrow morning. There's the sun times then. It rises at 7:31 in the morning and it sets at 12 minutes past 6 tomorrow evening. Now we start off quite cloudy again tomorrow morning, but that cloud will tend to break up a little bit in Pennine areas, especially as we head through the day, but rather more cloudy out towards the coast. But it will stay dry tomorrow. That's the easy bit, and the top temperature around 12 or 13 Celsius. A shower or 2 to come through during Friday maybe, but as I say, the weekend looks as though it's going to stay fine. That's your forecast. Good night.
npower, a brighter service come rain or shine.